calling this show now, but today we have an awesome topic if you didn't manage to catch the episode last week. We're going to sort of continue the chat about various gaming stores, their competition with each other, the price of games that you buy, how does it affect you, the industry, the publishers, and the developers. As usual, we're going to let Adam give us an idea of what we are going to get into today.
Honestly, as a console guy, this isn't really something I deal with as much as some of my PC brethren. I pretty much stick to PSN and Steam. I do have an Origin account because I wanted to get SimCity one time, and I do have a Humble Bundle account because occasionally they'll offer free stuff. But I'm not sure if I have GOG, and I definitely don't have Epic. So this is probably more of a Korean thing than an Adam thing.
You really don't have Epics. You haven't been partaking of all the freebies for the last, 12 months.
No, I haven't gotten a single one. I always, whenever I see one, I'm like, oh, okay, I should set up an Epic account and get this free game. And then I just forget and I just don't do it. And then it's like, oh, right, I meant to do that. And then the next one comes up and I'm like, oh, right, set up an Epic account. Yes, do that. And then I just slips my mind
Okay.
every time.
All right. Before we get into the topic today, some breaking news broke, and I'm gonna let Adam lead off with this story.
Oh, okay. Thank you, I guess. So Stadia, originally when it came out, there was all the hubbub about them, being the new kind of new kid on the block, right? They weren't a console, but they were going to be doing the streaming thing. And a lot of people online were kind of speculating, you know what, maybe Google isn't the right person to do this because Google has a habit of coming up with new ideas and then kind of abandoning them. I mean, we've seen this with Google Glass. We've seen this with Google Plus. I mean, I can't think of any others off the top of my head, but I'm sure they're there. And yeah, now Google has come out and they said with the Stadia, we are dropping all of our development teams or whatever, and we will not be releasing any first party games and we will not be releasing any exclusives. We are purely going to be a gaming platform. So is this going to be the kind of thing where is this Stadia losing steam and eventually it's going to collapse in on itself and we're going to be left with Luna and GeForce Now and Game Pass? Or is this just a reshifting of Google's priorities? Who's to say? What do you think?
I think they're gonna shut it down. I mean, like you said, you couldn't think of any other one. The other one was I don't know if you know about Loons.
Wasn't that their... Oh, no, I'm thinking Zune. I'm thinking the little MP3 player.
No, no, no. This was last week's news, but Google shut down, or Alphabet, Google's parent company, shut down their Balloon Internet Service Company. And that was Google's idea to put balloons in the upper atmosphere around the world and provide everybody with internet. This was started developing in 2013, and they even, they made it into its own subsidiary with I think a few thousand employees and hired a CEO and stuff. And the CEO just Google asked him, I guess this is the reported story that, okay, so what do you think? Where do you think this is going? He was like, well, we only have a 1 to 2% chance of success. And my recommendation as the freaking CEO of this subsidiary was shut it down. And so Google shut it down. There will be no more balloon internet, even though they did end up deploying it in Uruguay or Paraguay, and they deployed it in Puerto Rico as well to give everybody internet. So it did work. But apparently didn't make money. I think after Google put in $300 million, something like that. So, this continues a trend just like what was the Google social network? Google
Google
Plus.
Plus.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, this was just a terrible idea. I mean, releasing the actual box plus the controller plus the price plus you don't actually own your games.
Yeah.
No, I think this is not a moneymaker, which is why they're going to cancel it.
Well, in the sense that you don't actually own the games, isn't that very similar to Game Pass, though?
Uh, it is similar to Game Pass, but you're not paying Game Pass, you're paying a cheap amount of money.
Oh, so Stadia was more expensive?
Stadia was more expensive, plus you have to
Okay.
get the controller and the hardware as well. And I mean, GeForce Now, I think, has the best sort of model where whatever games you have on Steam is the games you have on GeForce Now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Google's got a weird thing. Were they the ones that were building that internet barge, or was that Facebook?
That could have been, I feel like I've heard that from a few people.
Yeah,
Because
because
I
I think
remember,
Facebook was doing the balloon thing too.
yes. Microsoft had like I know they had their own little barge, little internet barge as well, which I seem to remember in New York on the Hudson River. Uh,
Or maybe that was Microsoft then I was thinking of.
yeah, which I remember, but yeah, poor Stadia. I still think. I mean, so that leaves. Who do you think is gonna take the lead as far as streaming is going?
Uh, I think it's going to be between Amazon and Microsoft, and the reason for that is because I think Microsoft has the experience in the games industry, but Amazon has experience in the streaming industry with Amazon Prime.
Sure.
So I think between the two of them, it's probably going to be one of them that figures it out. And I'm not really sure because Amazon's doing some interesting things with the channels. So, whereas with Xbox, you get the whole Game Pass, so you get all the games. So, yeah, I think I don't know which one will take on. Are people just going to pay the one rate and get everything? Or are they going to have like, more like, I just want the Ubisoft stuff, I can get it cheaper. So I think one of them is probably the most
And you make a
competitive.
good point, though. I mean, because when you look on the back end, Amazon's got AWS, and Microsoft's got Azure, and those are all the like the backbone server infrastructures for streaming, and that's where Microsoft makes a lot of money these days. And of course, Amazon makes tons of money from AWS. It does make the logical sense that these two are going to be dominant.
Yeah, they're the big cloud guys. I mean, Google was big on cloud too, but they just didn't have the streaming or the gaming expertise or experience, I guess would be the word.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, they're just, I mean, they're still making a lot of money from advertising and stuff and being Google.com, and so it's not surprising.
I know. I wish I had 300 million just to blow on something and be like, it's got a 1% chance. And you know what? I probably should shut it down, like,
Our hypothetical
oh,
question, if you did have 300 million, what would you blow it on?
I'd pay off my mortgage and then retire
I
and
mean,
just live off of it.
like a big idea, like a
Like a
loon's
big
idea.
idea?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, what would I do? I don't know. I mean, I'm not that ambitious. I'd probably just give it to charity or something.
God,
Um,
the easy idea for me is nuclear fusion.
okay, yeah, no, that would definitely be a good idea. Yeah, I like nuclear power.
I like
Yeah,
nuclear
okay, energy.
fusion,
Yeah, no, that's a
not
good idea.
fission.
Yeah, energy would probably be some kind of or either nuclear fusion or better solar, like more efficient solar.
Okay, okay.
Because I think solar is a good technology. I think it's just inefficient currently, where to the point where like you need a huge swath of space and you're not absorbing that much energy. Um, I don't think wind is really that reliable. I just don't think it's strong enough to generate the electricity we need. I think the sun, either it's light itself or it's fusion, one of those two things. But I think a star is probably the goal we should be going for in terms of energy creation.
True, true,
So
true.
probably, yeah, no, nuclear is a good one. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. Not AI, no, and not autonomous vehicles. I like driving. So, or yeah, or maybe something like if I was going to do an AI thing, maybe more like a development AI where you can, because right now, like for instance, when we see like programming in something like Tinker or Scratch, they're designed that they use the block programming, and that's supposed to make programming more intuitive.
Sure.
So maybe if you could have kind of an AI interface where you could kind of tell it what to do and it could figure out some of those blocks for you,
Well, that is
maybe
cool.
something like that. Yeah, so it would be, yeah. So if it could understand kind of what you wanted and then kind of figure out how to make it work, I think that would be kind of cool. Um, but uh, but yeah, I think power is probably a better choice.
All right, and we are back on track now. So Adam, I see you've got some notes about the PSN store. I have
I do.
taken some. What have I taken? I've got an English PSN store.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because they have the American store and they have the Taiwanese store, and I always it's weird because I'll see things on the Taiwanese store I'll buy it or I'll see it for like a month, and then I'll see news like this is coming to the PlayStation Store soon. And I'm like, didn't we already have that? I'm really confused, you know. Um, and what's even weirder is if it was say the Japanese version of the game in the Taiwanese store, and then it was releasing in the American store later, I would get that. You know, you have to translate it from Japanese to English or whatever, Korean to English or whatever. But a lot of times I have the English version before the English store does because I guess Hong Kong.
I
So they'll
guess
release,
so. I was just gonna ask you about that.
yeah. So they'll release an English version in Asia and then later on release an English version in the US. But apparently there's are some differences because, for example, and this is one of the things with the PS5 is they said from now on X is the default select, circle is the default
Oh, what you were saying
cancel.
before.
And yeah, and so I would buy an English game, but even though it's an English game, it's still circle is select and X was canceled. So it'd still have the Asian controls. So maybe it's not just the translation thing. Maybe there's a lot of other stuff in the game that they kind of have to do to make it more compatible with an American audience and what their habits are and that sort of thing. So maybe that was part of the reason why it wasn't just a translation issue. You know, maybe they just translate it first and get that out of the way, and then they go back in and start editing the code to, you know, change the controls around or censor what they need to censor or do what they need to do there. So yeah, that was always kind of interesting. And then also the other thing that I really like about the PlayStation Store here is a lot of times if a game comes out, and when I first came to Taiwan, this was the thing is I was kind of worried like, how am I going to buy an English game? You know, most of the games are going to be in Chinese, right? And they said when I came, they actually said no, most of the games are not in Chinese. If I went to the game stores, there was because this was back when the PS3 was still new. But they said if you go to the store and you buy a boxed version of the game, if it's a Japanese developer, the game will be Japanese. If it's an American developer, the game will probably be in English. So when I picked up Fallout 3 for my PS3, and when I picked up Killzone, I got the box, but they were the English version of the games because they were made by English developers. And so that was really interesting. But now on the PlayStation Store, when you buy the game, typically in the US, it's just the standard US version. But if I pick up, and you have the language options sometimes in the game. But in Taiwan, if I go onto the store, a lot of times it'll say Japanese, Chinese, Korean, English, and it has all four versions built into one game. So that's kind of interesting because you can still manually set the language in the game, but if I set my PlayStation to Chinese, it would automatically transfer everything, menus, speaking, everything would be the full Chinese version. So here we get the full version, whereas in the States you actually only get kind of they reduce all the other ones. But I haven't noticed. This would be an interesting thing to look into, but I don't know if my file sizes are larger on averages because of that or not. I'm not sure. But yeah. I've also noticed, strangely enough, a lot of times they'll have two versions of the game. They'll have a Chinese Korean version and a Japanese English version. And I don't know why Japanese always pairs with English and Korean always pairs with Chinese, but that seems to be the way they always do it. So, yeah. And another thing I've noticed about it is the prices aren't always the same. I think that's because, with exchange rates constantly being in flux. But I think in general, the prices here are slightly lower than the American prices for the same games. Not by much. Maybe like, 10 to 20 cents on average US. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. So, yeah.
Anything else you want to say about the PSN store? I mean, what do you like
I
about
got a
it?
lot to say. Okay, so one thing that I've had a problem with in the past, and here in Taiwan, I always buy the pre-made game cards.
Yes.
Okay. And I used to do that when I was in the States. And when I came here, I didn't have a credit card. And it's actually hard for foreigners to get credit cards. You have to have like, what do we call it? Somebody who is not a sponsor, but
guarantor.
You have to have a guarantor, right? And so because of that, it's actually kind of difficult for me to get a credit card. I can get a credit card under my wife's name that I'm allowed to use. But for me to get one under myself, you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank, kind of. So basically, you have to be like a rich foreigner so they know that you're not going to run off with all your money at once.
You don't got to be rich.
You have to be relatively rich.
No, because I've got 3 credit cards.
You've also got Taiwanese citizenship.
When I got my credit cards, I didn't.
Really?
Yeah?
Well, you must have more money than me, because
No,
yeah,
no, no, no,
for
no, 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 no.
I'm sure you do.
Dude, you just need to go into the bank with your APRC and apply. That's all, and then they'll
You have
call
a
you.
credit card or you have a debit
I
card?
have 3 credit cards. I can show you tonight.
What? Oh, okay. Because they always would be like, no, 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 foreigners can't get, you can't get a credit card. You
I
can't get a
got
credit card.
Citi and Costco and Isan or Yusan.
Oh, Costco, I've heard you can get, but Costco is like different.
But
So,
Costco's with Gotai Bank, but you still, yeah, yeah. No, dude,
okay,
we can go to the bank together and
that's
you can
okay. I don't want
apply.
a credit card. I've had bad luck with credit cards in the past,
We've
and
had
they
this
are.
conversation before, which is
Yeah,
why
yeah.
I
No,
know you're not
I've
a.
had bad luck with credit cards. But anyway, I used to play World of Warcraft, right? I played WoW. And when I came to Taiwan, I wanted to keep my WoW thing going. Back then, I didn't have a credit card anyway. I'd always go to the stores and buy the prepaid, the monthly cards or whatever at like GameStop or whatever. And so when I came to Taiwan, I went to 7-Eleven and they had the cards, but the cards were for Region 3, the Asian region. So I couldn't buy the card and then use it on my American account. So I couldn't renew my US account. So I stopped playing WoW for years. And that actually kind of turned into an issue because a couple of times my friends would be like, hey, you got to get into the WoW. They got this new expansion or whatever. And every time I go, and I still, from Blizzard, they must have seen where I logged in most recently or something because I always get Chinese emails from them. And I used to always get English emails until I moved to Taiwan. And then I always get Chinese emails from them. And if I log into the store, it always logs into the Chinese version of the store. And sometimes until I think, what was it? What are the regions for PlayStation? Ah, there's
Because
a
you said Region
lot.
3, I'm like, what is 2 and 1?
Oh, okay. So region 1, I think, is the US.
Okay.
I believe region 2 is Europe. And region 3 is Southeast Asia. Region 4 is, I'm not sure, maybe South America or Russia.
Oh, that's
It's the
fine. I'm
same
just
regions as
curious.
DVDs.
Ah,
It's
okay.
yeah, they use the same as the DVDs.
Hmm,
So back when DVDs were a thing.
that's interesting.
Yeah, so we're here in region 3, or maybe China's region 4, because China is not part of region 3. Region 3 is Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, maybe Macau. I think Korea is part of region 3. I think Thailand, the Philippines, basically Southeast Asia that's not China was region 3. Uh, but now I lost my place. Where was I? But anyway, oh yeah, because so Blizzard would say I was in region 3, and then I couldn't use you couldn't use a Taiwanese credit card on Blizzard anyway. So I couldn't use my debit card to pay for things for the American stuff. I could only buy Chinese stuff for a long time. Like when I wanted to get, it was weird when I wanted to get StarCraft 2, StarCraft 2. If I wanted to buy it from the store, I would be locked into region 3 and I couldn't play with my friends back in the States. But if I went to a physical store and bought the box, when I installed it, I could choose my region. So that was a weird thing. And then I guess a few years ago, Blizzard finally made it that you can kind of buy across region and stuff like that. So now it's better. But for a long
Hmm.
time, I was kind of cut off from my friends um, in a lot of stuff. PlayStation does allow you, however, to play across region. So if I'm, and this is kind of an interesting thing too, if I'm playing a game and I'm kind of hosting, so say we're playing like Star Wars Battlefront. If I'm hosting, all the people we're playing with, you're going to see a bunch of like Asian names or Chinese character names. So we're playing with a bunch of, Asian people, right?
Yes.
On the Asian servers. However, if I join my friends' games, we're playing against American people. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that it'll figure out who's a host and then connect you. And I don't think that's such a case anymore. But side question: what do you think about cross-region play? For the most part, I have no problem with it. I think it's a great thing. I know a lot of people in certain countries would actually choose to go out of their way to play in different regions because they want to practice their language. I know a lot of people here would play in the American servers because they want to practice English. I know a lot of people in South America would play in American servers because they wanted to practice English. But I also know that in a lot of times there are very different styles of play in different regions and considered what's acceptable behavior or what's acceptable gameplay. and what's not. And I know that that can lead into certain problems. Like, for instance, I know in League of Legends, there was always a really big problem with Brazilian players. I don't remember what the problem was exactly, but I remember when I played, a lot of people had problems with Brazilian players because something, I don't know if they were just generally more competitive or if they had, I think, like maybe a certain meta that they wanted to play that way every single time. And if you weren't doing it, they would rage. And when, I don't remember what it was exactly, something along those lines though. And I know a lot of times people don't like playing with Chinese players because in China, the idea is, Chinese players cheat a lot and they use bots and they do all this. But the thing is to us, that seems abhorrent, right? That's horrible. But in China, the idea is everybody does it. It's part of the game. And so I do it because everybody else does it. And so to them, that's perfectly normal and acceptable behavior because that's kind of the idea. You should mod it. You should try to get yourself the advantage. You should try to do it. If why would you gimp yourself and not do it? Right. So that's part of the game and they accept it. And if somebody's kind of cheating or whatever, they move on. Whatever. That guy was, he was clipping through the walls. Oh, well, fine. I'll clip through the walls too. But when they play against non-Chinese players, I know it causes a lot of contention because a lot of people say you're cheating. You're not supposed to play this way. And to the Chinese players, that's perfectly normal behavior. So in that sense, I think cross-region play can cause a bit of a problem. There's also obviously the problem of lag. Lag switching is really common. You know what that is, right? Where they make it so it's harder to hit them.
I've heard the term and I've figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so like something like that can be a problem. But overall, I think it's really good. I like the idea that you can play with people from other countries and stuff like that. So
Okay.
that said, I do think kind of the MMO model is the better model. Like, for example, if I'm playing World of Warcraft or I'm playing Final Fantasy 14, what I can do is I can log into the game, and when I create a character, I can choose which server I want to join. So if I wanted to join a Japanese server, I can choose to do that. But then the idea is I'm putting myself in with Japanese players. I should go in with the expectation that I should be speaking Japanese. I should be, playing by their standards and that sort of thing. So I think having that option is really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. So it kind of went off topic there about the stores and the free games, but
No. I mean that's fine. I mean, like the cross-region play is something I've always thought about because I remember when I went to the mainland a few maybe 5, 6 years ago, and I was on a boat and sitting next to this Chinese guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we both play Hearthstone." And he was like, "Yeah, do you ever play on the Chinese server?" I'm like, "No, I play on the American server." He's like, "Yeah." He said the Chinese server is crazy. Everyone plays really fast. And like when he went to play on the American server, he said he got so bored because people would take forever to play. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a sort of Western server. But yeah, no, I think cross-region play is good, and I think things have come a long way as far as cross-region play. Like you said, choosing and especially with the credit cards, because like I get to use my Taiwanese credit card on the US Battle.net store, uh, so I can buy my Hearthstone expansions and other stuff, which is cool. I mean, that's come a long way. Um, so what do you not like about the PSN store?
um okay, that's a good question. Let me think. I hadn't planned that. So I do think, okay, something that I wish they did is, and they did this once and I thought it was really great and I wish they would do it more often. But it really was that one time. What they'll do is they'll offer usually 3 free games every month. And they used to offer one for the PlayStation Vita, one for the PlayStation 3, and one for the PlayStation 4. Or they would offer, one for Vita, one for PS3, and two for PlayStation 4. And then they dropped the Vita and then they dropped the PS3. And I understand why they did that. I mean, you're basically paying a licensing fee or whatever to the developers or the publishers to be able to put that game up for free, and almost nobody's playing it because I mean the PS3 is and the Vita are effectively dead. I still play my Vita, but I'm the unicorn in that case, right? I'm not the rare thing. So I was disappointed by that, but I completely understand that. But what I would like to do is because they do only offer 3 games a month. I remember one time what they did is they actually gave us, I don't remember if there were 2 games or there were 3 games. They gave us a couple games and they had the players vote on which one they wanted to be free the coming month. And I really wish they would do that more often, because a lot of times they'll offer free games, and me personally, I really have no interest in a lot of the games that they offer. Sometimes they offer indie titles which I've never even heard of, which is fine, and I get that a lot of people will play it for free, and I would, but because I have such a big backlog, since this was never on my radar, I'm probably never going to get to it. But yeah, and then I mean, this is kind of a me thing, but there's been definitely a couple cases like with Greedfall where I buy the game, and I bought it and it goes into the backlog, and I'm like, I'm going to play this game, and then 4 or 5 months down the line, it's still in the backlog, and then they offer it for free, and it's like, oh dang it, man! Like I bought this, and and if I had just waited, I could have gotten it for free. So that's definitely happened a lot of times. But yeah, and the other thing that's and this one I get, I think on Xbox Gold, it was if you paid for Xbox Gold and they had the game for free, it was added to your library permanently. On PS Plus, if you pay for PS Plus and you get the game free, if your PS Plus expires, you no longer have access to that game until you renew PS Plus again. So you have to be your PS Plus subscription has to be active to play any of the games that you've bought for free at any point.
Same with Twitch Prime.
Okay, yeah. Try to figure out where the questions go. Do you think a lot of people have negative reactions when a store offers a free game that they already bought? No, I don't think they do, because a lot of times these games have been out for a long time. The only games that in recent memory that were released shortly after coming out were Fall Guys and Maneater. And in the case of Fall Guys, it came out free for PlayStation Plus the month it was released. So because of that, nobody had paid for it prior to that. And then after that month, you had to pay for it. And in the case of Maneater, it came out, I think, the month before, but then they refunded anybody who had bought the game prior to it going free. So in that case, no. But I mean, I think it's kind of like a pet peeve, like an irking thing, like it kind of irritates you. But I mean, there's always that risk, right? If say Mass Effect 2 or whatever, I mean, now it's not the case, but when Mass Effect 2, I think it was 2, was free on PlayStation Plus, it had already been out for 2 or 3 years. So I mean, if you had bought it 2 months earlier, you can't really blame PlayStation for you being unlucky. You know what I mean? There's no good reason for you to be mad at that, because they definitely didn't scam you. I mean, most people had already played the game. You just had bad timing. And so because of that, I don't think too many people get mad about it. It's irritating, but it's not like I'm mad at you. It's more like mad at myself. Like, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Curse my luck, that sort of thing. How do they choose the free games to offer? So I've heard that what they do is a lot of times developers will come to them and say, hey, we want this game to be put free on PS Plus. I think that's what Fall Guys did, if I remember correctly. They actually went there and they said, hey, put us free on PS Plus. It's basically it's free advertising. And I think some of the ideas for especially these indie devs is this is a word of mouth advertising campaign. Basically, we sacrifice 1 month of sales. Bless you. And in return, they basically get word of mouth of people saying, "Oh, this game is great. You should all play this game." Whatever, yada yada yada. And it's free on PlayStation, so anybody who's on PlayStation can grab it now. Anybody who doesn't grab it now will have heard about it. But then also people on Xbox or people on Steam, when if PlayStation people are going online and talking about it on forums and stuff, like, oh, this game is great, Steam people might look it up. PC people might look it up on Steam, or Xbox people might look it up on Xbox. So in a way, I think it actually kind of is a word of mouth booster for other stores. And I think in some cases that might be part of why certain companies, are willing to do something on Steam, but then, still, because that actually boosts, if the game does well there. Like, for example, if The Witcher 3 does well on Steam and people talk about how great it is, it's going to do well on Xbox and PlayStation as well, right? because it has that reputation now. So I think that's part of it. And the other way I think is occasionally, sometimes they'll offer their first party stuff. It's rare, but they do it from time to time. And the other time that they do it is a lot of times if a game is coming out, like a sequel, they'll offer the original on there. So, for example, when Horizon Forbidden West comes out, don't be surprised if Horizon Zero Dawn is on the PlayStation Store maybe a month or two before it comes out. That would
makes
not be
sense.
surprising at all. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
totally marketing.
yeah, no, that's. I think it's mostly marketing. I think is the reasoning behind it, the logic behind it.
We gave us a good segue into the whole idea of the free games. So look, thinking of, PSN, I mean, but PSN, the games technically, there is a cost to them as opposed to the Epic
Yes.
Store, right? Or I mean, Twitch Prime free games, of course, have a cost. You have to be an Amazon Prime member or a Twitch Prime member. Steam sometimes gives away free games, but very rarely. This weekend, Steam was giving away some game. I can't even remember. And Humble Bundle does it sometimes, then again, very rarely.
Yeah.
Uh, why do you think Epic gives away a lot of games, but the Humble Bundle or Steam doesn't give away that many games? Or
I,
even after Epic did they did a game every 2 weeks or bi-weekly all of last year, and why has Steam never picked it up? Given that I think the PC Gamer released a story, they said that Epic gave away 75 million free games last year.
I think it's pure strategy. I think it's a case of you have, say, Steam is huge. Steam doesn't need to give away free games, right? They're already making their money. They're already established. Epic was the new kid on the block. I think Epic needed that street cred to get people away from Steam and to get people into their store. So in that sense, I think it was a very forward-thinking move where they think, if we, it's kind of like with Microsoft does this, PlayStation does this. You sell the consoles at a loss and then you make up the sales later in game sales, right? And I think that's kind of the same idea here. Was Epic we already have some money because of the development tool and whatnot, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to offer all these games for free. We're going to get ourselves some street cred. We're going to put a little bit of pressure on Steam, because there's no way we could compete head to head. So what we'd have to do is kind of this, insurgent, get under there, offer these free games. It's I think it's asymmetric warfare. I think that's what it is. And so the idea is we can't compete on their level. So what we're going to do is we're going to offer these free games. We're going to take the hit. We're going to take the loss, but we're going to bleed them of people, of gamers, pull them over to our side, get in the gamers' good graces. And if you look at a lot of the things that Epic does and a lot of the things they say are very market savvy. Like they definitely kind of have that, 1980s, 1990s, you would get where the corporation creates this cool character to get the kids to come over, and he's like, oh, you're, whatever. I don't know. I can't do an impression right now, but because I can think of it, but like that, I think that's that kind of like the Apple commercial where the woman throws the hammer into the TV. I think Epic is doing that, and they did it with Fortnite. They even mimicked that exact thing, and I think that's what Epic is doing. Is they're trying to create this kind of hip, young, kind of image for themselves. We are on the gamers' side. We're gamers ourselves. Steam is just this corporate Goliath. They're this, they're impersonal. We love you guys, and I think that's what it is they're trying to do that, and that's how they're trying to build brand loyalty. I think that's why they did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Now, Epic's been offering these games for a while. Who do you think the target demographic is, though? Because
That's a
like
good
I get
question.
the free games whenever I get them from the Epic Store, because it is just a simple open up the Epic Store, click free game, click place order. That's it, and I get it, and I think, uh, I'm, you know, Indian, South African Indian, and Asian people love their free stuff. If you've ever been to town, when a store opens, like down the street where I live, a store that sells Boston cream pies opened, and
Yeah.
they were buy one get one free, and people lined up just for to buy the one, and Asian people love a good deal. So
Yeah, yeah.
like even my brothers, we have a lot of the Epic games on our Steam store, but we'll still open them up and claim them on the Epic store for some odd reason or the other. Like Steam's gonna magically disappear one day and we'll just have to use the Epic store.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So I
love
mean,
that you say that though. Yeah. Like the cities don't enjoy good deals. but um I think I think because okay, so the biggest game obviously for Epic right now is Fortnite, right?
sure,
I think that's their target audience. I think it's teens who don't necessarily have buying power right now, but that's why they want to create that kind of younger image because Steam is kind of like Steam is what their dads used for gaming. No, really.
God.
It's true though.
I
Steam is
agree. I
what their
agree.
dads used for gaming and that's kind of the old man store, right? That's where the men with the money can spend their money. And I think Epic is trying to groom these younger gamers. Hey, build some brand loyalty. Let's give out free games. These kids don't have money to buy games, so they want free games, right? But the idea is to get those younger people loyal to the system, and then when they grow up, they're already baked into Epic Game Store. Do they have achievements and that sort of thing?
No. Jesus, I haven't played a game. I know. What am I saying? I just played a game on the Epic
Because
Store
Steam does,
on Sunday.
right?
Steam has achievements, yes. The Epic Store. See, but I've been playing because with the Epic Store, we've talked about this. I've been playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint with my brothers, but it still connects to the Ubisoft Store, and so I get achievements that way.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I think that the idea is, they're already ingrained into this system so that when they grow up and when they do have money, they're going to already be loyal to Epic Store because they have
True.
all that nostalgia in their brain. So I do think this is a long play. And so I think that's their target audience is kind of that, teenager, younger, not maybe young adults or, down to preteens, that kind of age range. I think that's their target right now because I think people like us are pretty ingrained in Steam. I mean, we have our Steam friends lists, we have our wish lists, we have our libraries, we have all these things. And getting us to move into another thing, it's kind of it's not a huge deal, but it's one thing when you're playing a game in Steam, and if you want to play something else, you got to log out of Steam and then log into something else. Like it'd be nice if there was just one place where all of our games could just come together, right? And you just have to go down the library, right, and just scroll down. And older guys already have that on Steam. So Epic can't compete with that, but younger kids don't. And so, hey, let's give them some free games to build that library, make it big. And then when they're older and they have money, let's do that. And then maybe to an extent, they're also kind of banking on we're the young, fresh guy. Let's offer free games and put in microtransactions. I mean, look at how much money Fortnite, the Battle Royale version is free, right? But they
Hmm.
made tons of money on these microtransactions.
They did.
So
They
I
did.
think they're kind of seeing like this is the future and we're going to go for this. And that's how we're going to make our money, not by selling games, but by getting people invested in games to the point where they want to show how invested they are. So I think it's a brand loyalty thing,
Okay. Okay.
my personal opinion.
No, no, no. As usual, I agree.
Yeah. So about you though? I mean, you've got all sorts of notes on markets and whatnot.
Oh no. For me, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. I was totally following your train of thought. As far as the stores goes, for me, like I guess I'll continue with the Epic Store. I was resistant to the Epic Store, immediately because Tencent, and Tencent is a Chinese company,
Yes,
and
we have a bias.
yes, we do have a bias. And like a friend of the show, Hans, he was like refused to get an Epic Store to use the Epic Store until this year when I was like, oh man, I'm getting Godfall, and let's play Godfall. I think what was the game we played before Godfall? Ah, we were playing Trine. And I'm like, let's play Godfall. And he's like, oh, is Godfall on Steam? It's like, no, it's only on the Epic Store. And he's like, I'm like, man, don't worry, because he's worried about his credit card and stuff, and he's worried about Tencent, of course, and China stealing his information. And I said, it's fine, don't worry about it. It's I don't know how safe it is, but it is a store. I mean, I do want some of the games on there, so unfortunately, I have to use the Epic Store. But I think, like, I don't know what you think, Adam. I think the way the Epic Store went about doing exclusives was the wrong way. Like with games like Ooblets, with games like Godfall, and saying, okay, I have to bring people to my store. Fine, we get it. But making a game exclusive forever, I think is not good. I mean, consoles do it fine. I get it. Even I think in console exclusivity is bad now in 2021. But I don't know. What do you think about Epic Store making games? What do you think about exclusives forever? And we did talk about this before as well.
I don't mind exclusives if they're first party. I don't like third party exclusives at all, by any stretch. But if so like for instance, Horizon Zero Dawn, made by Guerrilla Games, which is owned by Sony, fine. I'm cool with that, and I'm really glad that they put that on PC because it's a great game and I want everybody to play it. Um, Halo, Microsoft owns the IP. It was made by it was made by Microsoft and Bungie. Microsoft owned Bungie at the time, so they own the IPs. You know, when I first came to Taiwan, they didn't have a lot of shooters on the PlayStation, and I did enjoy playing Halo. But it was one of those things, you know, like they put that work into it. You know, if they want to release it on their store, that's fine. Um, excuse me. What I
Sure.
don't like is when, say, they'll pay somebody like Bethesda for it. I mean, not now. Now they own Bethesda. But you know, before I wasn't too keen on that. For instance, when PlayStation got Nier Automata, it wasn't clear whether it was going to be on Xbox or not. It was people were pretty strongly speculating it was going to be on PC at some point, but people weren't sure if it was going to show up on Xbox or not. And it did. And that's great, but yeah, I wouldn't have been happy if that was stuck on just the PlayStation, because at the same time they were creating what was that other game, Scalebound, I think, which was going to be an Xbox exclusive,
Yes.
and that really looked interesting to me. And I know I remember a lot of people saying at the time they were like, "Why would Platinum make this for Xbox? This looks very JRPG-ish. This looks like a PlayStation game. This doesn't look like an Xbox game." Which, I mean, I guess now PlayStation kind of has a reputation of what kind of games they have, and Xbox had a reputation for the kind of games they had. Um, but yeah, I don't mind it if it's your first party thing. I mean, and that's the thing. If Fortnite is on Epic Game Store and that's the only place to get it, it's made by Epic Games, right? Let them put it on their store. That's their prerogative, right? But yeah, for something like Godfall, who makes that?
It was published by Gearbox. It was made by a smaller studio. I don't quite remember.
Okay, for something like that, I wouldn't be very happy with it only being on one store.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in some ways it's because from what I've heard, it can get kind of predatory in a way where a lot of times these bigger studios will offer what seems like a good deal at the time, and the developer releases it on the one console, and then later on they end up realizing, oh, we probably could have made more money, but because we've entered this contract, we're kind of trapped now. Um, for bigger studios, it's probably not an issue because they have a little more weight behind them and they can get better deals. But for smaller developers, I've heard where it can kind of, you know, for instance, if they're developing a game and Microsoft comes along and they say, hey, you should make this a Microsoft exclusive. Here's some money. And they get the money and they think it's great. And from what I've heard, you know, for a developer, it's really tempting because you get money up front. And that's in gaming, that's almost never the case. All the money is backloaded, right? You make the
Sure.
game and then you hope that you can get that money back. So if you can get all that money up front, then you think, yeah, this is great. This is wonderful. But then a lot of times I've heard or read that developers, you know, down the line kind of realize, oh, you know, I ended up getting the short end of the stick on that deal, you know? So,
I mean, it's an interesting problem. I mean, it's like the same idea of the lottery, in most countries where, when you win the lottery, you have a choice. You can take that monthly payment, right? Get that constant cash, or you can take all the money up front or take a lesser amount and sometimes a significantly lesser amount upfront in cash. And a lot of people tend to take the big upfront payment because that's human nature. That's greed. You want that big amount of cash and looking in the bank and see all those zeros, and it's security, it's power.
see, for
So
me, security would be the long term where it's like, oh, now I know that every month I'm getting this much money in and I'm not going to spend it all at once and then be like, oh no, what have I done? That's me.
No, no. I mean, true. I mean, because you have a different. I mean, you're not a greedy person. But like for me, if I won the lottery today, and there was like, do you want? God, I never remember what the Taiwanese lottery is. It's probably a few hundred million Taiwan dollars. Do you want? Let's say it's 300 million. Do you want 100 million now, or do you want, you know, 200,000 every month? I'd really spend a lot of time thinking about getting 100 million now.
I do 200,000 every month, dude. That would cover. That's more money than I make now. I
That's
could
definitely
quit
a lot
my
more money
job
than
and
I make
still,
now.
yeah, yeah. If it's like 200,000 for the next 20 years or something like that, or next 10 years, I'd be like, I can quit my job. This can be my job now. It's just collecting lottery money.
No, no, I totally agree. But I mean, you wouldn't even think about getting that big down payment right now and the power that would afford in this short-term moment.
No, but the reason is because, like you were saying, people are often motivated by greed.
Yes.
I'm motivated by fear. And so my fear of the future and not having, that's why I'm always like working, is because I'm always worried that, like, what if something happens in the future? I need to make money now. I'm it's the ant and the grasshopper story. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, the ant, what happens when winter comes? I have to prepare now for when winter comes. And so in that way, my fear would outweigh my greed. And I'd be like, okay, maybe I can get a lot of money now, but I pay off the house, and then what happens if this and this is, like, down the road, and what happens if I do quit my job and then I get lazy and I don't budget it? Down the road, I'm going to have to find a new job again, and it's just going to be a big hassle and blah, 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 blah. And so my fear would outweigh my greed. And then my fear would say, you know what, go with the safer bet. So,
True, true, true.
yeah.
Come back to the PSN store because I did want to get you. Your last question is, what functions do you wish the PlayStation Store had, or
I wish
what do you think PlayStation is going to do with the store in the future?
I wish they brought back wish lists. They when they so when they went to I guess it was right before this current gen, they said we're going to delist all PlayStation 3 and PlayStation PSP, PS Vita games. Anything that's not PS4 and not PS5 is going to be delisted on the store. You can't get it on the store anymore. And there's literally no way to get it. The only way to get it is to log into your PlayStation 3 or log into your PS Vita and go through their in-app stores. And that's kind of annoying. I mean, I get that they don't want people to have to sift through all that, but I would like just a tab where you could click and it's like, legacy games or something like that. And they had a list of all the legacy games because they're still apparently there. They're just not listed on the website. I understand that they wouldn't be listed in the PlayStation 4 or the PlayStation 5 store. That's fine with me. But I would like to be able to access that from the website.
Okay, so wish
Um,
lists. Anything else?
well, back to wish lists. When they used to have wish lists, and when they switched over to that, they got rid of wish lists. And a lot of people speculate that's because some people had still PlayStation 3 and PSP or Vita games in their wish lists. And since the store no longer included those games, it just cleared everybody's wish list and got rid of the feature. And they're going to bring it back later, but you're going to have to add stuff back to your wish list. So I wish they had that and hadn't gotten rid of it. That was kind of annoying. Um, Other than that, I actually used to like the app a lot more than I like it now. I felt like the old app was easier to navigate on the phone. The new app, I'm having to learn it all over again, and it's just not as easy
For
for me.
non-PlayStation players, you probably want to remind people what app you're referring to and what does the app
Oh,
do
the app on the phone, my phone app, the
for
PlayStation.
PlayStation app.
PlayStation. It's
Okay.
just the PlayStation app, the PSN app, the PlayStation app. I would like it if they updated that a bit more, or even went back to the old way, because the old way I felt was more, yeah, just easier to find things that I wanted to find. Now basically the icons are bigger, so it's easier to see screen art, but you see fewer things per page.
Okay.
Um, and for example, on the old one, they had a button or a tab or whatever. You hit PS Plus, and the first things that were on the PS Plus were how to renew, like the renewing things, and then 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, and then right below that was the free games, and that was just literally press one button, and then you're on that page. Now you kind of have to navigate through to find all the new PS Plus stuff, to the point where I used to just grab them on my app as soon as they were up, and now I actually just log in on the computer because it's easier to navigate. So I'll actually sit down at the computer and do it that way, because the app on my phone, I just find it's too tedious find where the free games are and stuff. Or I'll just go on the PlayStation 5 and just go to the store directly and grab them that way. But yeah, I wish they kind of cleaned that up. As far as other things, yeah, I can't really think of anything else I'd really want.
Okay. Okay.
I'm a minimalist guy. I don't need a lot of fancy features, you know.
I mean, using that to segue back to the Steam store, I put this in my notes as well. I've, I mean, I've joined Steam apparently when I checked. I've been a Steam member for 15 years, so it's 2021. I started Steam. Oh God, my math is bad. 2006, yes. And Steam, love it, awesome, really, really cool. I still think it is way too complicated. Like if you look on the picture that's up on the screen, if you're podcast, you're gonna have to watch this video. So it's got store, library, community. Uh, this is not my picture though, so it's got a console. But I mean, there's different options for different things. There's this Steam big screen view, which is for if you're running Steam on a big TV. And they're so hard to find a lot of things like because Steam sometimes you get gifts, sometimes you get like freebies for like sort of cosmetic stuff you get for games, and those are hidden in some menu. You're like, oh, what have I played recently? Or have I played this game? And that's even hard to find. Steam's come a long way. It was much worse a long time ago. And a lot of people have been complaining as well. And a YouTuber that's passed away, Toll Biscuit, he talked about this and he made a really good point that, I mean, in the last like 5 years, Steam's, become localized. So like Adam talked about the exchange rate, Steam doesn't have this problem. The Steam games, if it's a new game, it comes out at 1799 Taiwanese dollars or 1800 Taiwanese dollars or roughly 60 US dollars. It never changes because Steam has a localized Taiwanese store, a localized Japanese store, a localized pretty much every store, which is why they're a $1 billion company. And because of that, now, like on my Steam store, being a not, I mean, I'm not Taiwanese, I'm not Chinese, I'm not like, Asian, Indian Asian, but my Steam store is full of anime games, JRPGs, click something weird stuff, a lot of like games with fonts that I can't read, and I dislike that a fair amount because now I mean, and it's bad for developers as well because if you're releasing a new game and you want lots of people to play it and loads of countries have sort of foreign populations, your game's probably not going to get seen because you're sort of squashed by all the other games that get released that are region specific, that for some region, I mean, not for some reason, I mean, it makes sense. You want to put local games to that local region, but it sucks because I want to see other stuff. I can remember 5 years ago, before Steam implemented the new system, I got to see like the new games coming. I got to see the Bayonetas, the Nier Automatas, the all the stuff that would come out to PC, the English stuff. Oh, Adam, I've got a good question for you.
Okay.
I remember something really, really cool that I wish Steam would bring back is gift giving. Because
Ah,
when it came
yes.
to my brother's birthdays, I would just buy them a game on the Taiwanese store and send it to their UK store for my older brother, South African store for my younger brother. Now, Steam does not permit that. The only person I'm allowed to give games to, as far as Steam gift giving goes, is people in Hong Kong, Taiwan, Southeast Asia, pretty much. I don't know if does PlayStation have that problem?
Well, they don't have gift giving, unfortunately. That is something that I
Son
would
of
like to have.
a.
I remember thinking about that a long time ago, and I actually, yeah, I forgot. I always wanted gift giving, and part of the reason that I did was because, again, I have my American account,
Yes.
and I would love to buy something on my American account, but gift it to my Taiwanese account, so I'd have all my games on one account. For example, usually it's not an issue. Usually, if because if you have your PlayStation set as your home system, any account on that system has access to the games on your account. So if I buy, say, Persona 5 on my American account, I can still play it on my Taiwanese account. That's fine. But there is the case of the only game that I really play on my American account is Final Fantasy 14 because Final Fantasy 14, since I bought it on my American account, will not allow me to log in from any other account.
Hmm.
And so because of that, I have to that's the only game that I play on my American account. Every other game I play on my Taiwanese
Taiwanese
account.
account.
And if I could gift that game to my Taiwanese account, then that would have been very convenient because then I could have everything in one place. So I do wish there was gift giving. And again, there are. I think I kind of get why they do it though, because again, like I said, a lot of times the game's versions are different. So we talked about this with Assassin's Creed. The Asian version of the game is censored,
Yes, I
whereas the
remember you
American
saying
version
that.
is not. So if you could do that in gift games, people in a different region could get the game from that region and then gift it to themselves. You know what I mean? And then they could bypass all these regional censors. And I think that's part of the reason why they don't allow that, possibly. And I mean, maybe that's part of the reasoning behind Steam as well, because I know Steam has been particularly in the news when it comes to certain Japanese games involving children or younger characters.
Yes.
And I know that because Steam kind of had their standoff policy where they're like, you know, we're not going to step in, whatever. We're not regulating it. It's your job to do your research and pick the games you want. We're just a platform. We're an open forum. Anybody can come in here, you know, and we're only going to step in if there's a lot of complaints. And I think because of that, certain games were definitely getting a lot of publicity in the States. And I think maybe in some ways Steam was like, okay, because I know on PlayStation now the US versions are typically the more censored versions than the Asian versions.
True.
This one's a very special case, but I think that's part of the reason why. And then also too, like I said, I could buy a game for myself that has English and then gift it to my friends in America, and they could have that game prior to its American release.
Nice. Good for them. Not good for Sony.
I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad for Sony, really, right?
Yes, yes.
But I think the idea is, you know, if you're going to have like these release dates and all that, I think there's kind of, you know, and people are accessing things and I think part of it too is if you do start doing things like that, you might have a lot of people in the States who are creating, say, Hong Kong accounts, and then Hong Kong is a very small region. If you had a country like, say, the U.S. that was trying to all access the Hong Kong market at the same time because they wanted to get the game because it's releasing there like 2 weeks earlier, that would be really, really hard on Hong Kong servers, which are not designed to handle a population of that size.
True, true, true.
So that might be part of it as well.
Yeah, and I think gray marketing was the problem because I remember back in the day with Steam gift giving, you know, the price in the UK, the price in South Africa, the price in Taiwan. Taiwanese games, my brothers always thought were like ridiculously cheap back in the day, and I think Steam didn't have to pay Taiwanese sales tax when I first came to Taiwan. So we'd buy games, we wouldn't have to pay tax on those games, and I could like gift them easily. And my brother was like, "Oh, this is this price. Oh, can you buy it and send it to me, and I'll send you the money later." And that's what happened. Gray marketing, that would have been an issue, but now that's no longer an issue because no more gift giving, extra region gift giving, I should say.
Do you think refund policies had a hand in that as well?
Good. I think at that time there were no refunds on Steam.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Because now I know like Europe has these really kind of, I don't know if you would say lax, or they have really, they
pro
require these.
consumer
Yeah,
policies.
exactly. So they,
Yeah.
they really require a lot of these, you know, you have to give refunds if unless these conditions are met. Like if you've played the game over 15 hours or,
Yes,
you know,
yes,
you've
yes.
you've bought it over a month ago or something like that. You know, if you've bought it within a month and you've played less than 15 hours, you have to give them a refund or something like that.
Mm.
But in the US, they have different refund policies. So I wonder if that might have been part of it as well, as, you know, people might be buying a game or, you know, buying a game in the US or something, or, you know, gifting it from the UK or whatever, and then trying to get refunds in a different region because their region wasn't offering refunds. Um,
That could have been something, a sort of a large part of the puzzle of the way stores exist at the moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure because you were saying, what was it? Steam has price parity across everything, right?
Now, yes. As
Okay,
of
yeah.
three years roughly.
Yeah, and I'm looking at so I'm looking at the PlayStation Store here now, and yeah, they got a bunch of different random prices. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is $1,690, not on sale. Resident Evil 6 is $684, but Resident Evil 5 is $699. So, and then was it Resident Evil 4 is 687. So I mean, it's the equivalent of, so Resident Evil, the difference in price between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 6 is that Resident Evil 4 is 3 Taiwanese dollars more, which is literally 1 US cent. So their prices are different by 1 cent US.
Yes.
And then the difference from Resident Evil 4 to Resident Evil 5 is an additional, what is that, 12, a different 12 cents. So, one game is 1 cent more and the next game is 4 cents more than that. So they're definitely not going at normal price ranges.
That's very strange. I mean, considering Sony, I mean, why wouldn't they have had, a system like, Steam, like Epic as well? But now Epic is not like Steam. I think Steam, out of all the stores, Steam is the only one that does this sort of even pricing across all regions.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. I'm going to look up the exchange rate for Taiwan to the US, and I'm going to look up the same game on the US store and the PlayStation store. So let's look up I already bought that one, so I have to pick one that I haven't bought. All right, so the one at the top of this list here is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So I'll look up that. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I spelled Odyssey wrong, but that's okay. It should be able to figure out what I want. Okay. So Assassin's Creed Odyssey in the US is, and let's see, USD to TWD, or NTD, I should say NTD.
TWD.
Okay, whatever. All right, so okay, so they're both on sale right now. Oh, but the one in Taiwan is 80% off. The one in the US is only 75% off. Okay, but $59.99 in the US. $59.99. So this is not on sale. In the US, it would be $59.99, which would be $16.70, and in Taiwan, it's $16.90. So actually, the Taiwan price is higher than the US price currently. But the Taiwan has 80% off, and the US has 75% off. So on sale, it's cheaper in Taiwan. So yeah, they definitely don't have price parity here.
And we have hit the hour-minute mark, so I think we're gonna have to start ending things. I always need to think of a better way to say that.
Time to wrap it up.
Oh, God damn it. Time to wrap it up. I gotta remember that. So, Mr. Gray, moving into next week, Tuesday. This was my sort of crazy episode about stuff that we didn't talk about a lot. But what do you want to talk about next week?
Geez. I really should have been thinking about it all week, and I wasn't, and now I don't know. Do you have anything that you particularly would like to regale our audience with?
I was wondering, because I started playing Slime Rancher yesterday,
I
and
saw that.
yes, and I was wondering if you wanted to do a games episode where we talk about, well, I mean, you finished Portal 2, right? Or about to finish Portal 2.
I just finished Portal 2, yes.
Yeah, do you want to talk about Portal 2, especially given that you did 1 and you've done 2?
I would love to do a Portal 2 episode.
Yeah. So we'll do like a games episode, go back to the game show.
Okay, I can talk about Portal 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Because I played them back to back.
So talk about Portal 1, 2, I'll talk about, because I mean, I enjoyed Slime Rancher so much, I think I'll probably be playing it, as I said yesterday on stream. I'll probably be playing it Thursday and Friday this week, tonight, streaming it Thursday and Friday, and try to get it in Saturday, but unlikely. But we'll see, at least 3 days this week.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be streaming too much. I'll stream tomorrow, but on Friday, unfortunately, our dog passed away last Friday. So this Friday is going to be the dog's cremation. There is going to be a funeral. This is something that I thought was kind of interesting with the last dog, is in Taiwan, you can have a Buddhist funeral for your dog, and we do that, and that's actually kind of cool. But anyway, that's I know I'm smiling, but no, but it's interesting. It's interesting. But yeah, we're going to be doing that on Friday. So I will not be streaming this Friday, and currently I am doing my winter classes, so I will not be streaming again next Monday. So this Wednesday and then next Wednesday, and I think next Friday should be okay. So
Yeah, Adam's the same. So usually we'd have an extra podcast episode. I have winter classes and I've got a bunch of work stuff going on. So no second episode, like 90% sure this week for the podcast. Maybe I might get something. It just depends on what happens, but we will see. And with that, as usual, please check us out on social media. Join us for streaming. You know our streaming times. Adam streams in the morning, Taiwanese time. I stream in the evening, Taiwanese time. Please join us. We do talk and have fun and chat. And you can find us at Middle Age Gaming 2020 on all social media. We might even be doing some other social media in the future. As always, I'd like to give a shout out to Adam's friend Going Terribly, the podcast. Check them out as well. There, talk about some really interesting things, cool pictures on Instagram. And shout out to the lady who gave me stars yesterday, Joanna Lu, and whoever gave us stars on December 10th and December 14th of 2020. We just figured it out at the end in January. Thank you for that as well. That makes a huge difference. It may not sound like it, but it does help, and we want to thank you for that as well.
thank you so much.
Okay, and then we will see you guys next week, Tuesday, to talk about whatever Adam wants to talk about.
Games. We're talking about games.
Yes, yes. God, how did I forget already?
All right. See you guys later.
All right, see you guys later.